Well, some dogs just have way too much to say, don't they? They never bark when they should, and they always bark when they shouldn't. In fact, some dogs always bark. Well, anti-bark collars that use citronella or electric shock can diminish the racket, but they're missing the mark. Does anybody here have a dog who barks too much? How about a neighbor dog who barks too much? How about dogs who bark when you're gone from home? If you've been working from home and you're going to be going back to the office in a few months or maybe sooner, we may have to work with that a little bit. If you have any questions about this or you know anybody who could use this information, by all means, put it in the comment line. Put another person's name in there. Let's spread some good information about this. By the way, if we haven't met, I'm veterinarian Dr. Jeff Nickel, and this is Miss America, the Nickel Family Border Collie, and all you have to do is look smart and you get a treat. There, that's pretty good. And our cats, Carolyn, can I have some kitty attractant here? They've been so well trained during all these Facebook Lives for the last couple of years that they hold out for good taste. They're waiting on the floor, and as soon as she puts these high-value little kitty kibbles on the table for me, then, they're up here looking interesting. Oh, here we go, a couple of indoor hunting feeders. Okay, gentlemen, here we go. There we go. And I'm using the term gentleman loosely. Thank you. I hope we can, there we go. See how smart they are? This is Tony and this is Gaston, the Nickel family cats. So, barking. A lot of people try to teach their dog to stop barking. And these punishment collars, that's the point. If a punishment is a strong enough aversive, if it's applied immediately following the undesirable behavior, every single time, it can diminish the frequency of that behavior. That's how punishment is defined. But barking is normal. Right now, I'm vocalizing the human equivalent of barking, and if you tried to cause me to stop talking, I wouldn't be able to do my work anymore, would I? I wouldn't have relationships. It would diminish my life substantially. Now, needless to say, some people, they bark too much too, right? Well, let's look at what the cause is of these problems and deal with that, because punishing or trying to correct, reprimand, yell, jerk on the leash, stop that, that kind of stuff, well, it's a normal behavior, but your dog might not be set up to succeed. Let's think about, for a minute, what dogs really are. Well, they're not wild animals, are they? Cats sort of are. They're domestic pets who belong with us, but dogs are truly, in pretty much all respects, a domestic species. But they are genetically programmed to do things that are innate to their species. Now, they're highly social, and they live in communities, which is part of the reason that they work out so well in our homes, because they are very closely bonded to the others in their group, and that includes their human leaders. And they'll protect the territory. We study them in the wild. They're in a social group. They each have their own jobs. One of them is typically the sentry, to look out for other groups of dogs who might want to invade the home territory, to haul off some carcass that we drug home that day to survive on, come in to take our young. These are serious issues, and dogs innately will protect the territory. And if they don't know other dogs or other people who are coming by, it is very normal for them to alert their leaders that something may not be quite right in this situation. And so we don't want more of that than we want, but we want normal behavior. So dogs who bark when they hear people come by, it's not a bad thing. Here's the but, is that we have fences, don't we? That's what responsible dog parents have to keep their dogs safe, keep them in the yard and out of the traffic. But behaviorally, they're not our dog's friend, especially wire fences or any kind of fence that they can see through, because they really need to get out there and deal with those potential invaders. What they need to do is say, hey, there's somebody out there, and get out there and go, hey, throw out their chest, state your purpose. You got some ID? Looks like you're okay as long as you keep moving. Or, oh, gee, you're here to steal the china. They need to be discerning. They need to read the signals, and they need to interact with these other dogs in a natural, canine-specific way. And that means posturing and swapping body signals and avoiding and re-engaging and turning and communicating and doing some, a little competitive urinating and maybe a little bit of rear end sniffing. Well, how in the heck are they going to do that with some wire fence or even a cedar privacy fence what they can see through just a little bit? This is what we call artificial barriers. And these cause tremendous frustration for some dogs more than others. And if your dog is frustrated because she cannot get out there and do as she must, do what she is genetically programmed to do, well, we can't be punishing that or reprimanding that or damaging our relationship with that by yelling and jerking on a leash when the dog is having a hard time being who she really is. And let's see, swipe left. All right. I've got somebody who showed up, Carolyn. Oh, there we go. Wonderful. Oh, Martha's here. And Linda is watching. Wonderful. Oops. My Ollie has those hunting feeders too. Yeah, they're actually pretty good. What we've done with some of those is we've put canned cat food in those and freeze them in a Ziploc overnight and give them to the cats. And it takes a long time to, pick the guts out of these little mice. So they can keep them occupied doing something that's pretty similar to their natural predatory behavior. Thank you for the hearts, by the way, because it helps me know that people find this sort of thing useful. So I'm glad everybody can hear me too. So what we need to do is deal with the natural inclinations that our dogs have to, be protective of the home. And actually, let's not pay any attention to that. Let's teach them to do something to work for us and to earn reinforcers when we want them to stop. Because, again, a little bit of barking, hey, there's somebody out there. Okay, that's fine. Now it's time to stop. Simply telling them to stop, well, that ain't going to work, is it? Now, if you really wanted to do the best thing behaviorally for your dog, here's what you would do. And I'll warn you, I'm saying this sort of half in jest. Because if we sold our house and moved off way out somewhere in the national forest and lived off the grid, found a cave, with an opening, but we wouldn't put a door there. And we'd, build fires in there and maybe put art on the inside of the cave, be cave people, right? And we had no fence, of course. And our dogs would get out there and forage and hunt and prey, and they would be our best friends. And they would show back up whenever they needed to, but they would have all the natural freedoms that dogs are, again, genetically programmed to have. They could be who they are meant to be. They would see anybody else coming along and go out there and investigate and drive them off if necessary, or swap a few jokes, maybe even political humor, not much of that these days. And they would not have these frustrations. Well, we're not going to do that, are we? We're going to stay in our houses with our glass windows that our dogs don't understand, and our fences that they, these artificial barriers that cause them so much barrier frustration that cats don't seem to care about, right? And so what are we going to do instead? Well, let's have them do something else that is natural and innate to them, and that is earn reinforcers and resources from their leaders. Now, dogs typically are, there goes our indoor hunting feeder, it's on the floor. Do you have any more of those, Carolyn? These cats are finding them pretty useful here. And so they, I think, does somebody have a question here? Let me see. Oops. Gaston, he's stepping on the keyboard. That's not really helping me. Thank you. Thank you. Oops. Sorry, Tony. There you go. Here you go, Gaston. Well, I may not get any more communication here because Gaston's been stepping on the keyboard. Anyway, so dogs, of course, are sure that famine is going to occur in about 20 minutes. And anybody who doesn't eat now isn't going to make it. And that concept of scarcity is innate to this species. So how can we use that to our advantage? Well, if you carry a treat bag, ooh, good. Oh, Cindy, wonderful. I'm glad you're here. And, look at this dog. She just ate a generous meal 30 minutes ago. okay? And, ooh, a treat? Well, she'll do whatever it takes. So what I'm going to do with her, excuse me, Gaston, I have my clicker here. Gaston? There it is, right there, okay? So this is you may have seen me show this before. This is called a click stick. And Miss America, target, good. You notice that she touched her nose to it, and she earned an immediate click. And then I can take a minute to fish a treat out of my treat bag, because the food starts out as what we'll call a primary reinforcer. In other words, we all work for food, don't we? But a click is simply a neutral sound. But if we give that reinforcer of the click immediately when the behavior occurs that we want, then the dog can learn that that is the primary reinforcer and actually work for the click. Now, you don't have to have a click stick like this. You can get cheap little clickers at the pet supply store for a couple of bucks, okay? But I'm going to show you just a minute. But this is just an example of what she will do for a click. In fact, she'll do anything for a click. Maddie, target. There you go. She has to touch her nose to it. I saw a video today of one of my residency mentors in my behavior residency, Dr. Laura Haug, she clicker trained a goat to walk through a little obstacle course. Now, goats aren't known for their intelligence, but chickens will work for clicking. It's real easy. You see the behavior you want, and you immediately click. So here's this little dog, and his name was Bingo. Now, he got older and he passed on, but he was a wonderful dog. Look at him, he's a little pug. I mean, he's just a cute little guy, and it was a lovely dog. And the truth is, he had a handful of unhealthy behaviors that I helped his person Ruby with. But one thing that Bingo did was bark too much in the yard. So here's what I taught Ruby to teach Bingo to do. She sent him out in the yard wearing a long line. This is just a 6-foot leather training leash. But he would go out there with a 30-foot line, and you can get these at pet supply stores or order them online, lightweight, or you can make your own with nylon cord. And he would go out there, and he was already taught how to come when called, and he was pretty reliable, but he got farther away. And then she would say, Bingo, come. And as soon as he turned to look at her, she'd click. She already had the clicker in her hand. So he got an immediate reinforcer for refocusing his attention on his person. And then he came in. And as soon as he showed up in front of her, he would get another click, the immediate reinforcer, followed by another treat from her treat bag. Well, we don't want to set a dog up to fail. We want them to be ready to succeed. So we make sure that they are reliable at these skills before we put them to the test. So again, if your dog is not well trained to come when called, do that inside. You know, have her sit with a leash a couple feet away, and then tell her, Miss America, come. And she comes in, and you tell her how wonderful she is, and give her a treat. But you can also be clicker training her at the same time. Even if she's never heard the word come before, as soon as she looks at you, you click. And when she arrives in front of you, even if you have to give her a little tug so she gets the concept, then she gets another click when she arrives in front of you, and then a treat. Okay? Well, they learn pretty fast. I mean, look at how tuned up this girl is right here. So she's outside, and we had Ruby start Bingo. Bingo. It's just a wonderful dog. You know, he went out there like 10 feet. This is after he was real good at all this stuff inside. Go out there old 10 feet, and Ruby would say, Bingo, come. As soon as he turned around to look at her, her thumb was right on the clicker button. She'd click him immediately, and in he would come, click him again when he got in front of her, give her another treat. So ultimately, you know, she was doing this at longer and longer distances until finally do it anywhere in the yard. So when he started to bark too much, she would open the back door and say, Bingo, come. She always had her thumb on the clicker button before calling and always wearing her treat bag so that she was always ready to immediately reinforce when he looked at her, immediately reinforce again when he showed up, and then reinforce with a treat. Well, this dog never barked too much because she was out there to derail it immediately. What she never did was reprimand Bingo for doing what was natural to him or for barking too much because he was frustrated by that darn fence. Dogs don't like fences, but we've got to have them. So instead, we're going to have a response substitution that the dog still gets the same stimulus, the same trigger, that is, people outside the yard, or maybe dogs next door raising a ruckus on the other side of the fence because they have barrier frustration too. And you say, all right, couple barks, now we're done. Open the door, call bingo. As soon as he looks at you, he gets the immediate reinforcer from a distance, which is the click. And boy, I'll tell you what, their ears get tuned to these very quickly. And then the dog comes in, give him another treat, another click, and then a treat. Did I have another question here? Ooh, Karen, Mason is watching. Oh, wonderful. And let's see, who else? And Cynthia, wonderful. Boy, well, this is a good crowd here. And Karen, I'm delighted you're here. Thanks for coming. I hope this is helpful. And again, you can share this with anybody you want, and you can put questions in if there's anything else I can address for you. I'm sort of getting the hang of this thing, but sometimes I just don't. Well, anyway, it's not working for me right now. I'll try it again in a minute. So I wonder if anybody's ever tried reinforcing good behavior, because with what we did with Bingo was he did the same thing that we didn't want, but we taught him to do something instead of. And the instead of behavior is very much innate to their little canine brains, because their job is to survive, and they are entitled to nothing except air to breathe and water to drink. And so food is a resource that they believe, I don't care how many years they've been our pets, they believe they have to earn every bit of it. Well, let's use that to everybody's advantage. Okay? And then we're going to teach them something they didn't know innately, but they can catch on quickly because it's always linked to food, and that's the click. So this dog gets an opportunity to earn food for survival. And we'll go, wait a minute. This dog knows that there's always food. This dog surely doesn't believe that she's going to starve. Oh, yes, they do. Because these fundamentals that are genetically programmed into their brains are not something that they have lost simply because they're our pets. They still feel that way. And so we're going to use that as a training method. So, you know, what if you've got a dog who's eating stool in the yard? Well, you can use, now Tony T, you're wanting dog food, no naughty cat. Suppose you have a dog who eats poop out in the yard. Truth is, there's not anything that can cause them to get sick, believe it or not, unless they're picking up parasites. And it's actually sort of a normal behavior, different discussion. Well, if you, Tony T, I don't know if you have any more cat treats, Carolyn, but this cat is going after my darn treat bag. I would love to, there we go. Here we go. Let's see. Does anybody else have a question? Nothing new. Okay. So anyway, oh, wonderful. Thank you. Here we go, gentlemen. There. Tony T. There you go. Here comes around the other side. So if you have a dog out there eating stool, you can put a basket muzzle on them before they go out there. Or you can let your dog out after eating only when you're ready. And as you let your dog out to eliminate, you already have the clicker in your hand, and you already have the treat bag on your waist. So the dog finishes defecating, and then you say, bingo, come. Click as soon as he looks at you, click again when he arrives in front of you, and give another treat. And while you're training that, you send him or her out there on the long line so that you are in control. But you don't reprimand, you don't put hot sauce on poops, you don't, people have done all kinds of stuff to get these things under control, and we don't try to change it. There have been so many remedies that have been touted for teaching dog to stop eating stool, and you can get them on the internet, forbid and all kinds of stuff like that, and it's all been researched. And yeah, there are a few people who say, well, this dog responded to it. I won't argue with that, but when we look at the big numbers, none of those remedies have made any real difference in a great enough number of dogs to make them worthwhile. So we use a response substitution. The other thing that really concerns me is that some dogs have separation anxiety. Turns out that only about 10 or 20% of them actually get diagnosed. It's very common. Something like 17% of all dogs have it. And very often the symptoms aren't noticeable because, Tony T, you little character, you keep trying to steal dog food, dog treats. See, he thinks there's going to be a famine starting any minute. So if you have a dog who You know, some of them are destructive when they're left alone because they're freaking out. Some people make the mistake of crating a dog who's freaked out when alone because they don't want it damaging their house. Well, I get that. But these dogs need more space, not less. And they can get frantic in their overwhelming attempt to escape and fracture their teeth and break their nails, cut their lips. It's horrible what happens to some of them. So confinement to a crate is not the answer. And separation anxiety is a discussion all its own. But some dogs will bark incessantly. And you want to ask your neighbors, do you hear my dog barking when I'm gone? And if that dog is doing that, we need to treat for separation anxiety, which is a whole other beast altogether. Okay? But we need to know that our dog has separation anxiety. And a great way of learning a lot about what's going on when you're away from home is to shoot some video. If you have a surveillance camera, that of course makes it easy, but you can take your smartphone and get a tripod that you put on a desk-type surface or on the floor for like $7 on the internet. And, you know, just run 20 minutes of video after you've left. Drive away so your dog knows you've really left and find out what the heck's going on. And if you are anticipating going back to an office away from home here in the next few months, we hope we get to do that kind of stuff. We want to know beforehand, because if we have advance warning on this, we can start treatment with something like the Calmer Canine, targeted pulse electromagnetic field device. Medication can have its place with some of these. There's some behavior modification methods. Being preemptive on this thing make a huge difference. Well, anything else? Carolyn, did you see anybody else with a question? No. Okay. Well, thanks everybody for coming. And if you have any other questions, by all means put them on my Facebook page. Sometimes I use them in my weekly newspaper column. I would just want to encourage everybody. Take the time to build a foundation of trust and choice and freedom for your dog and your cats, because our pets, just like people, will get obstinate if their leader only wants their needs met. Any point in a relationship, they can learn to trust us not to intimidate them. And, you know, the empathy that we feel for our pets, that means that they're not the same as we are in so many important ways. I mean, how many people you know go out in the yard and bark, 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 and bother the neighbors, right? There's a reason why dogs behave differently than humans. There's a lot of similarities, but there's some important differences too. And our empathy, our ability to recognize that, yes, they are different, and there need to be different ways of managing behaviors that we have a problem with. So let's delve into canine behavior, okay? And so you're welcome to contact me if you need some help with some of this stuff on Facebook. And by the way, if you want a lot more information, you can get these Facebook Live events. Thank you for those hearts. And my weekly media blog, which is actually a newspaper column that's printed on Friday mornings in the Albuquerque Journal. And I send that out to my subscribers on Tuesday morning, both of those things. And you can sign up to get that stuff in your email box at no charge. It comes every Tuesday morning like clockwork. Just go to my website, drjeffnicol.com. drjeff, N-I-C-H-O-L, no S on my name, .com. And at the bottom of the homepage, you can subscribe. Costs nothing. And when you do, I'll send you, at no charge, my at-home pet first aid and CPR guide, and those can be lifesavers. I've done lots of emergency work. All of that, including all of the behavior information I share, is all research-based because we practice evidence-based medicine, we veterinarians. So thank you again for sharing a little bit of time with me, and I hope everybody has a good, safe weekend. Please keep wearing your masks, even though the numbers are a little bit better and we're starting to get vaccinated. My turn hasn't come up yet. I'm lucky I have no pre-existing conditions, and I'm not old enough yet, which I guess is good too. Now, one of these days I'll get vaccinated, and we can all start feeling a little better and go out to eat and that kind of stuff. But until then, let's all be careful and stay alive and wear our masks. So thank you again for tuning in, and I will see you all next Thursday. And thank you for being here too, Miss America, and you two boys as well.